Tonight, photo fiasco, a royal apology, a doctored image, and a palace PR disaster. The Princess of Wales admits to making some edits.
That message intended to show that all is well has backfired.
As an attempt to stop speculation sparks more of it. High-level talks in Jamaica in hopes of helping Haiti during a violent political crisis. Cruise control. A rebound of luxury liners in Vancouver collides with a post-pandemic push to sanitize the homeless crisis for tourists. The dramatic rescue of a BC couple buried by an avalanche.
She was very hypothermic. She had a reduced level of consciousness.
And a bid to ban TikTok.
It would have a devastating ripple effect.
What votes in the U.S. could mean for Canada.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. Royal attempts to quash questions about the health of the Princess of Wales are igniting even more curiosity tonight. This morning, the princess, calling herself an amateur photographer who experiments with editing, apologized for any confusion for the family photograph she shared for UK Mother's Day. That image featuring Catherine and her children was recalled by multiple news agencies in what's called a kill notification after concerns the photo may have been manipulated. The Associated Press saying the photo shows an inconsistency in the alignment of Princess Charlotte's left hand. The corner of her skirt oddly straight, and Kate's hair and zipper appear misaligned. The palace says the changes are minor.
I think the best thing to be done now would be if Kate and William released the original photograph, warts and all, with no amendments and no changes made, so that we, the public, could see that the changes weren't that big a deal. But of course, that depends on those changes being quite minor.
But tonight, the palace says it has no plans to release the original photo. CTV's Scott Hurst leads us off.
Prince William attends a Commonwealth service at Westminster Abbey alone today, as controversy encircles his wife Catherine, Princess of Wales. Kensington Palace released the photo, which was the first official picture sent out since her abdominal surgery 2 months ago, meant to put an end to weeks of speculation about her health.
This is a PR nightmare. It's a disaster.
But news agencies began pulling the photo from circulation soon after publishing on Sunday, citing inconsistencies. British newspapers and tabloids now pouncing on the controversy with headlines that read, "Looking great, Kate, but fans spot Photoshop gaffe." The princess issuing an apology herself today, saying in part, "Like many amateur photographers, I do occasionally experiment with editing."
It's the first time that I know of that the palace has ever released something that was misleading and then admitted it.
Eagle-eyed observers have been pointing to some of the potential flaws, including part of Princess Charlotte's sleeve appears to be missing. Catherine's hand on the other side is blurry compared to Prince Louis's sweater. A blurring around Charlotte's knee as well. Also, Catherine's wedding ring, missing from her finger.
This is all about public trust. Can the public trust anything that any part of the royal family, the monarchy, the palaces are telling us? You know, so if this photo wasn't real, what else is not real?
Despite the apology and admission, Kensington Palace is facing increased pressure to release the original photo. Omar.
All right, Scott, thank you. The spiraling security crisis in Haiti prompted an emergency meeting today that included Canada. Global Affairs says more than 2,900 Canadians remain in the country as the situation rapidly deteriorates. CTV's Colton Prail on Haiti's state of chaos.
Outmanned, outgunned, and out of time as gang violence continues to overwhelm authorities in Haiti. Today, Caribbean leaders and representatives from Canada and the United States convening an emergency meeting in Jamaica to push for the creation of a new transitional government in Haiti.
People of Haiti will be well served as people come together and set aside their differences and remain ambitious about the future we're going to build.
The meeting is a continuation of a months-long effort thrust back into the spotlight as Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry remains forced out of the country over death threats. On the ground, thousands have been displaced and the country's airport is locked down.
The whole systems are collapsing, and mainly the health system is currently collapsing in the country.
The United States and the European Union both evacuated any non-essential embassy staff from the country. Canada's embassy remains closed to the public.
We are very safe and have no plan to evacuate. We are ready for any eventuality.
But the risk remains as violence continues and the nation's paltry police force struggles to maintain a foothold in the capital.
Now that the situation is so bad, we need that Kenyan contingent as soon as possible just to support the Haitian National Police that is probably overwhelmed by the situation.
Last month, Canada committed $80 million towards helping reinforce the Haitian National Police. 1,000 additional Kenyan police officers were promised last October. Today, African officials say they're only in the pre-deployment phase, something American officials say needs to be sped up. Haiti's most powerful gangster has threatened a civil war that could lead to genocide if the country's prime minister doesn't resign. Today, Jamaican leader Andrew Holness says that fear is now a possible reality. Omar.
All right, Colton, thanks. The Muslim holy month of Ramadan began with no signs of a ceasefire in the Middle East, where desperation is mounting. 200 tons of food on this ship destined for Gaza and already inspected by Israeli officials is stalled at a port in Cyprus. The aid group responsible for shipping the supplies, the World Central Kitchen, says it's not responsible for the delay. The spiraling humanitarian crisis comes as tensions grow between U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is vowing to push ahead with an invasion of Rafah, where more than 1 million Palestinians are taking refuge. Biden has warned the offensive would be a, quote, red line, without specifying what the consequences would be for defying that red line. And joining me now is retired Major General David Fraser. General Fraser, thank you so much for being here. I want to start with the U.S. President's comments over the weekend. What do you make of what he said?
Well, I think the president is demonstrating his frustration with the Israeli prime minister by indicating a red line, which historically have never worked, and at the same time trying to send a message to giddy up with the humanitarian support that is stuck in Cyprus, and Gazans desperately need this. But it's more frustration, and no one seems to be able to pressure the Israeli prime minister.
Right now, all sides are deadlocked. There's an impasse. We're even seeing these tensions play out publicly between two historical allies, the U.S. and Israel. What do you think it will take to end this war?
Well, fundamentally, it's going to be what the Israeli prime minister decides is enough, and whether or not he's got his hostages back and whether or not he's destroyed enough of Hamas. And right now, it doesn't seem to be any indication that he's close to achieving that. So we should expect this war to carry on for some time to go, but it's the Israeli prime minister's decision in the end.
Retired Major General David Fraser, appreciate your perspective tonight. Thank you. In less than 48 hours, the U.S. House of Representatives is expected to move ahead with a pivotal vote that could impact the future of TikTok in America. CTV's Alison Bamford on what's at stake and what it could mean for Canada.
TikTok sent out a notification yesterday saying take action now to prevent a TikTok shutdown.
TikTok is fighting to stay online in the United States. A proposed bill could serve the app's Chinese parent company ByteDance an ultimatum: sell TikTok within 6 months or face a ban in the U.S.
We simply cannot allow an app controlled by our nation's foremost adversary and competitor to take over the American media landscape.
The bipartisan legislation would stifle U.S. national security concerns that the Chinese-owned app is leaking user information to Beijing, something TikTok has repeatedly denied.
two great quarterbacks.
President Joe Biden is one of 170 million Americans on TikTok, but has said he will sign the bill if Congress passes it.
A ban is an incredibly difficult thing to do, both from a legislative perspective as well as a technological one.
Former President Donald Trump tried to ban TikTok in 2020, but the courts blocked the move. Now Trump has flipped his stance in an interview with NBC, saying other social media platforms could be just as much of a threat.
You have that problem with Facebook and lots of other companies too. I mean, they get the information. They get plenty of information.
Meta has yet to respond to the comments. North of the border, some experts say a TikTok ban in the U.S. will likely impact Canadian content creators and small businesses.
Canadian companies won't be able to promote their product on a very popular platform to other residents and businesses in the U.S. It would have a devastating ripple effect.
Ottawa barred the app on all government-issued mobile devices last year. The feds are now paying close attention to the U.S. bill, but would not say if they're considering similar legislation. Allison Bamford, CTV News, Regina.
A new but familiar face who once avoided partisan politics is picking a party lane. Former Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi, who made history as the first Muslim to lead a large North American city, now wants to lead the province, and today entered the race to be Alberta's next NDP leader. Here's CTV's Tyson Fedor.
I'm Naheed Nenshi, and I'm running to be leader of the Alberta NDP and your next premier.
Ahead, Nenshi announced his intentions to replace Rachel Notley attacking the campaign trail from the outside looking in. Nenshi trading his centrist purple for the NDP orange.
If you want to make a change, you got to pick a team.
Nenshi spent 11 years as Calgary mayor advocating for the economy, energy sector and affordability, but he enters the party leadership a month later than his main rivals. Political expert Lisa Young believes Nenshi will struggle to find enough support that others have already secured.
If the party were to choose Nenshi as its leader, I think that its brand would certainly change. I think that certainly he would need to find areas of compromise.
I will not be leading Alberta's NDP into the next election.
Notley announced 2 months ago after losing a second consecutive election to the UCP that she would step down. Since, 6 people are vying for her job, including several sitting MLAs.
I'm delighted to have him run. I just don't necessarily think he should win.
I have no intention of endorsing any candidate, no.
Nenshi wasted no time in attacking his former University of Calgary classmate Danielle Smith, calling the premier and her government incompetent, immoral, and dangerous.
Look, I've known Danielle Smith for 30 years. The woman who is the premier now is not the woman I grew up with. She's something else. She is devoid of doing what is right for the people of Alberta.
Members wanting to vote for their next leader have until April 22nd to renew their NDP membership. The final day of voting for the next leader will be June 22nd. Tyson Fedor, CTV News, Calgary.
4 years ago today, COVID-19 ushered a seismic shift to how we live. Shortly after noon on March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization announcement shut the world down.
The number of deaths and the number of affected countries climbed even higher. COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
A lucrative industry once grounded by the pandemic is again setting sail in Vancouver for the season, but at a cost. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson reports on the measures to hide some of the city's most vulnerable from tourists.
Vancouver has a visitor. It's only here for 10 hours. You might be surprised what that's worth.
$3.3 million per ship into our local economy.
For local attractions, this Disney cruise is a wonder indeed.
We're heading up to Whistler for a couple of nights, catching out the NHL game on, I think, Wednesday night. So, yeah, we've never seen that before.
Many cruisers will stick closer to shore and wander through the city's historic Gastown neighborhood, where local shops are grateful for the business.
When you've got that many people coming in.
They also feel fortunate on this destination street to be somewhat protected from homelessness and crime.
Better here than it would be even 1 block away. So that's how close the action is.
Vancouver isn't alone, still struggling with social disorder made worse by the pandemic. Businesses have dealt with smashed windows and a spike in shoplifting. The new mayor ran on hiring more police. But when it comes to cruise season and the hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, the pressure is on to provide a positive experience.
The vibrancy of our streets is back. We have invested a ton of money in keeping those streets clean.
Efforts being watched closely by the industry.
It's a positive signal that it's top of mind for the city, that they're not, deflecting, they're taking it on as a priority.
More than 1 million cruise ship passengers will visit Vancouver this season. An incredible recovery for an industry that flatlined during COVID. But there is no quick fix for the issues those tourists will see for themselves on city streets. Omar.
All right, Andrew, thank you. A parliamentary committee voted today to examine why killer Luca Magnotta was transferred from a maximum to medium security prison. The House of Commons Public Safety and National Security Committee will summon 4 witnesses. Among them is the head of Correctional Services Canada and the warden of the prison where Magnotta is currently serving his sentence. The cryptocurrency Bitcoin reached a record high today. This morning, Bitcoin rose past $72,700. That is the highest it's been since 2021. Analysts say it's partly fueled by a demand in the U.S. of some new Bitcoin exchange-traded funds. Dangerous winds sweeping the U.S. East Coast have placed more than 50 million Americans under alerts. In Maine, the U.S. Coast Guard braved rough waters and rushed to take a medical evacuation at sea. Gusts of up to 100 kilometers an hour stranded thousands of air travelers. Coming up.
So she was in very serious condition.
Inside an avalanche rescue mission. Plus, a skipper from Newfoundland makes Canadian curling history. A backcountry snowshoe adventure on the mountains overlooking Vancouver turned perilous for a couple. An avalanche struck the high danger terrain and buried them both. The woman was stuck upside down on the slope for nearly half an hour. CTV's Yasmin Gandam on the incredible rescue.
A couple in their 30s were able to get up the backcountry trail, but the avalanche struck on the way down. The two were snowshoeing Sunday afternoon on Mount Seymour, over 20 kilometers northeast of downtown Vancouver. The man was able to dig himself out and call 911. Rescuers told him to look through the debris, and that's when he was able to find his wife's snowshoe.
And by the time they got to this couple, she was very hypothermic. She had a reduced level of consciousness and had signs of oxygen deprivation. So she was in very serious condition.
Rescuers say it took 10 team members to get her out of the terrain. The pair were experienced snowshoers, but were not carrying rescue gear and did not have avalanche training.
Just by walking or stomping, you can actually trigger an avalanche. And where they were going, it was quite steep. And with snowshoes, you'd potentially slide a little bit. It would be very easy to trigger an avalanche under those conditions.
With high avalanche risk in the North Shore Mountains, people are advised to avoid the backcountry unless they have adequate training and tools.
And typically, we see danger drop down after a few days following a storm. However, that's not expected to be the case this time, as there's a big warm-up expected for the weekend, and that heat and warm temperatures will likely keep the danger ratings elevated for a relatively prolonged period right now.
Avalanche Canada says on average 80% of avalanche fatalities occur every year in BC, and the province has the highest number of backcountry users in Canada. It comes days after a 19-year-old backcountry skier died just outside of Calgary. The couple lucky to get out safe and sound. Yasmin Gandam, CTV News, Vancouver.
Still ahead, mid-air mayhem. Dozens injured after frantic moments aboard a Boeing plane. A big weekend for the lone Canadian who took home an Oscar. Ben Proudfoot spoke with CTV News about staying grounded after his win.
It's certainly exciting and heady and fun, but at the end of the day, you got to come home and feed your dog and put your pants on one leg at a time.
It's Proudfoot's second Oscar. This time he won Best Documentary Short for The Last Repair Shop, a film he co-directed about a group of craftspeople who maintain and repair musical instruments for public school students in Los Angeles. Congratulations. A scary scenario after flying wheels seemingly out of nowhere on a busy Toronto highway. A driver has been charged after the wheel detached from a car bounced across the highway into oncoming lanes and shattered the windshield of another vehicle. Police say one of the 3 passengers saw it last second, ducked, and that probably saved the passenger's life. And an investigation is underway after this harrowing moment midair during an international flight. A Boeing 787 plane from Sydney to Auckland, New Zealand encountered strong shaking, injuring 50 passengers, including crew members. Some seen lying on the floor, others with bleeding head injuries after being flung in the cabin. After the break, calm, cool, and collected.
The 2017 Brier really opened the floodgates for us because we played with so much pressure during that week, and we knew that nothing was ever going to reach that magnitude. So when we go into finals now, we're going to Briers, it's kind of like we're playing with house money.
A Canadian curler delivers a championship performance. You could say Canadian curler is rocking. Only a stone's throw away, Brad Gushue cemented his place in history with another clutch performance on the ice. CTV's Garrett Barry was at his hometown curling club.
Banner after banner, documenting a run of success that's put Brad Gushue into the history books.
Highlights that the province itself can really compete with the rest of the country.
The championship wall at the St. John's Curling Club is getting full. Gushue's legacy in this province couldn't be more secure.
I remember when he won the Olympics in 2006, the province shut down. The premier, Danny Williams, he closed the schools. We went home, we watched it. It was fascinating, watched it on TV, and that's how I got my start.
Gushue's dominance didn't come easy. He busted onto the Canadian curling scene with early wins in junior and Olympic competitions. But that national title eluded him for a long time. It took 13 tries before Gushue won his first.
They're really hard moments. You talk to your family members, your friends about, is it like, what am I doing here?
Those doubts are long gone. After he won his first title on home ice in St. John's, he just won again and again. Gushue returned to Newfoundland this evening, the winningest skip in Brier history.
The 2017 Brier really opened the floodgates for us because we played with so much pressure during that week, and we knew that nothing was ever going to reach that magnitude. So when we go into finals now, we're going to Briers, it's kind of like we're playing with house money.
Last night made it 6 in 8 years.
In a spot to
After giving up some points and facing all kinds of pressure with his last stone, Brad Gushue took over the seventh end, showing why he is a champion.
My goodness, where did that come from?
It took just 9 ends for Gushue to beat Mike McEwen's team Saskatchewan, the hometown favorite, completing the three-peat at the national stage.
And a 6th Canadian championship.
I think, we're definitely worth considering and should be in the conversation, but I think everybody's going to have different opinions on who they think is best or who had the greatest run.
It won't be long before Gushue had the opportunity to bring home yet another banner. He'll be playing at the World Men's Championship later this month. Garrett Barry, CTV News, St. John's.
Great work, and that's a snapshot of this Monday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.